Hey guys, we are Sean and Christy. This is Long, Long Honeymoon, coming at you today with an excellent discussion topic. What season of the year is best for RV travel? Winter, spring, summer, or fall?
Yeah, and I think most people are going to say, oh, summer. Like, obviously it's summer. But it's not obviously summer because...
We're not going to say that.
Yeah, it really depends on where you're going on your trip. How far south it is, how far north it is. Is it in the mountains? Is it in, beach area? All that factors in to which season is best.
And in this video, we're going to talk about pros and cons of each season. Mm-hmm. So let's start out talking about spring.
Spring for the rest of us.
When spring is sprung.
So we would consider spring to be March, April, May.
And actually our first long RV trip was taken in springtime when we got married, right? Yeah. And we went down to Key West, Florida. Beautiful time of year for an RV trip through Florida, right? So what downsides could possibly occur during spring? I mean, during spring, there are fewer people on the road typically traveling. Campgrounds are less crowded. You've got flowers and greenery everywhere. Well, you also may have...
Well, the storm has gotten thicker. Hailstorm.
Hailstorm. Nice.
Unbelievable.
I'll never forget our first trip during springtime going down through Florida. We ran into a hailstorm. Yeah. And hailstorms are the nightmare of every Airstream owner because, our travel trailer has an aluminum skin around it that can dent quite easily. And once it's dented, it's just not easy to get those dents out. And in some cases, Airstreams are just completely totaled by hailstones.
But thank goodness the hail we encountered was very small, didn't do any damage. We survived. We learned our lesson. And we moved on.
But it kind of makes the point about spring that weather can be a little less predictable and more volatile. And, one year we did a major springtime journey up the East Coast and went into Maine, for example. Mm-hmm. And it felt like we had a month straight of rainfall.
Yeah, we were kind of there in late May, early June, so kind of that shoulder season between spring and summer. And in Maine, when you go that far north, really June is still their spring. Things are still sort of in transition, and so we just got pummeled with rain every day. And it sort of wore on us a bit. It sort of sucked a little bit of the fun out of our trip. I mean, Maine was still gorgeous, but it's just a different bear to tackle when you have to get, sort of kitted out with all your rain gear before you go outside every day and you're in it all day long.
Yeah, in fact, we learned some lessons about packing on that particular trip because I can remember one of the first things I did in Maine is I went out and I bought kind of a thick waterproof type jacket.
Yes.
And I also purchased my first Tilly hat.
Yes, the birth of the Tilly hat.
And it was out of necessity because we were getting rained on every day.
Yeah.
Spring is a beautiful time of year to travel, and there are the advantages of there just simply being fewer people out there.
Yes.
But you have to, prepare for that weather volatility.
Yes. And in places like, Yellowstone, Grand Teton, those areas are still often under serious snow piles in the middle of spring. A lot of times the campgrounds in Yellowstone don't even open until the end of May. And sometimes, depending on the weather, that gets pushed back into June. So we talked to a lot of people that they're like, oh, we're going to go to Yellowstone in May. And it's just the weather is so unpredictable. And it is snow that's coming, not just rain in those higher elevations. So you really have to check the conditions of where you are wanting to go to determine if spring is going to be that lovely, moderate temperature, occasional rainstorm climate, or if it's going to be something a lot worse than that.
Moving on, let's take a look at summer. Now, most of you would probably say summer is the best time for RV travel. And why would you say that? Well, kids are out of school. So, a lot of people have more time on their hands and everything's open and active. Mm-hmm. And all of that is true.
And I think most of the country is pretty great for camping in the summer, with the exception of the Deep South, unless you're going to be at a full hookup campground, because it is going to be 100 degrees outside. It is going to be 85% humidity. So you're going to want to have air conditioning. Otherwise, you're going to just bake and be miserable.
And in the Southwest, you will have a dry heat, but it will be hot.
Yes, absolutely. Same scenario. So I think summer is best for kind of middle of the country and north, where you're going to be at either higher elevations or places that just don't get those crazy hot temperatures. I do think summer is the time to go to the Northeast. Like Maine, I think is pretty awesome in August. We've been there in August before. It's beautiful. It's 75 and sunny during the day, but at night it's going to get cold. You're going to need a jacket. You're going to need long pants, so definitely prepare for that. And then the Pacific Northwest, I think that's really when it shines, is in summer. It's when you're going to get the best weather. It's pretty comfortable even at night. You are probably still going to get a little bit of rain, but for the most part, you're going to see it sunny, which is the only time of the year that it is sunny, and definitely a highlight time of year to go there. With regards to Yellowstone and Grand Teton and places like that, Utah, like the national parks in Utah, summer can still be brutal because the temperatures are getting high and there's a lot of people. It's crowded. There's going to be a lot of people on the trails. It's not my preferred time to be in those parks, especially in Utah, because Utah is going to just be baking because you're getting the sun from overhead. It's reflecting off those red rocks. There's no shade anywhere. And it's a good time to go to the Tetons in that area, but just know it is still going to be warm during the day. It's going to get into the 80s, It's going to be cool and comfortable at night, but during the day, it is going to be in the 80s, so I wouldn't plan on being in your camper during the day unless you're in a full hookup campground. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, the major issue with summer is the heat in the southern portion of the United States, but also the crowds.
Yeah.
I have an old philosophy. The best time to travel is when the rest of the world does not.
Yeah.
I love being in airports when they're kind of mostly empty. I like being on mostly empty airplanes. I like being in mostly empty campgrounds.
Yes, same.
And, I don't like being around big, heavy crowds. And, that's what you're going to encounter quite often during summertime.
I have a little plaque that I bought to put in our camper that says, "I want to be where the people aren't."
Right. We sound antisocial. We're not. We're
not.
Social people.
We just don't want to be, somewhere where it's thick with people. That's why you vacation, is to get away from people. You want to get out. You want to see nature. You want to experience the beauty of our country. And I don't want to have to stand in line to do it.
So this brings us to my personal favorite season of the 4 seasons, autumn.
Probably mine too. So that would be September, October, November.
Why do we love autumn so much? Well, first of all, the crowds are thinning out. Kids are back in school. Places just are more accessible. You don't need to have so many reservations in advance. Campgrounds are less crowded. Also, the weather is obviously turning cooler. You've got, beautiful autumn, fall foliage in many parts of the country. And
honestly, I think for most of the country, it is the ideal time to travel because in the Northeast, in the fall, you've got the turning of the leaves. If you've ever been in Maine or Massachusetts or any of that, Vermont, during autumn, you have seen the changing of the leaves and it's beautiful. So I think that's an ideal time to be there. In the South, late fall is perfect because the weather is very pleasant during the day, cools off a little bit at night. I would say early autumn in the South is still pretty hot, so I would wait till later into October. But out west, I think early September, mid-September is still really nice in the Pacific Northwest. Of course, the Southwest is still nice, that time of year in autumn. And even South Florida, in September and October, it is still warm, but it's not the just massive heat that you get in the middle of summer.
So what are the downsides of traveling in autumn? Well, we've seen the gamut. We actually left on our trip to Alaska very late in the season. Mm-hmm. And we did basically travel up there during very late summer, early autumn.
Yeah, so we were there most of the month of September and started working our way home the end of September.
That was very late in the season to be in Alaska.
Yes.
One problem we encountered during that time of year was that a lot of campgrounds were closing down.
Yeah, a lot of them closed the end of August, beginning of September.
So, we at times encountered dump stations that would be locked up for the season. Like you'll start to run into that in autumn. A lot of these dump stations are not open year round. And, we've had that happen in many parts of the country where we're trying to find a dump station and can't find one because it's already closed for the season.
Yeah.
And the same is true of campgrounds. They start to close. So, you have that window of opportunity maybe where the weather is great and the campgrounds are not crowded, but then those campgrounds close and you run out of options pretty quickly. The other problem with autumn that we've encountered is weather can also be volatile. And we've run into snowstorms out west. A snowstorm in Yellowstone hit us one time, and it was incredible. We were actually stuck at Grant Village by ourselves, camping for several days.
At the insistence of the ranger, he said, look, you can't go any further on this road. We're closing it for the night. So he was like, you just need to stop in the Grant Village parking lot and stay there until we deem the road safe to drive.
So if you look on our channel, you will see we have a video about when to visit Yellowstone when there are no crowds. And that is that autumn time frame of like early October. But you do run the risk of being stuck there. We had some wonderful experiences in Yellowstone in October, and we've had some terrifying experiences, frankly.
I think September is kind of the sweet spot for there. And even in September, you can get some snow flurries. So keep your eyes on the weather when you're there for sure.
There was another year when we were in Idaho and got hit by a snowstorm.
Yes.
And, I've been preaching about not overpacking your RV. Well, I took it a little too far and I did not have a coat. I remember going out and buying a thick, heavy coat, like a cheap coat.
We went to Costco and bought like a $20 coat.
Like a $20 thick coat.
Because we were desperate.
Which did the job.
It did the job. We bought some extra long johns and layered up, and it was great.
And we hunkered down in a campground pretty much by ourselves and kind of rode out this snowstorm for a few days.
Yeah. So thank goodness it wasn't one that was scheduled to last for very long. So we were only there for maybe 3 days.
So it was a fun experience, but a lot of you probably would not sign up for that.
Yeah, for sure.
And you remember one time we were stuck in a parking lot in Idaho for several days during a snowstorm.
Yes. And it was, I think it was when we were having a truck problem.
Yeah.
So we had no choice. We had to ride it out because our truck was having issues. And we actually had a subscriber named Kelly. Kelly in Idaho Falls, thank you so much for coming to our rescue. He came and drove us to a gas station to get more fuel for our generator.
Yep.
And we went to lunch with him, and it was definitely a godsend for us.
That was a crazy experience, but it, just kind of shows what can happen if you linger too long, too far north during that time of year.
Yes.
We had another great experience in the Tetons. We were there for the first snow of the season, and I remember a couple of young moose playing behind our trailer.
It was a mama moose and her twin babies, and it was their first snowstorm. It was the first time they had seen snow, and they were just jumping and playing, and it was really cool to see that happen, because it was just magical.
Yeah.
I mean, there aren't many things that I deem magical, but that was pretty magical.
That was a magical experience. And, after the snow melted a little bit the next day, we hightailed it south and got out of there. So that's what you have to watch out for during autumn. Otherwise, wonderful time of year to travel. And of course, previously we've done the college football series, going to different college football games.
Yeah.
And we may do some more of that in the future. Let us know in the comments below if you want to see any more college football videos.
And I would say it's not really about football. We show the football, we show the campus, but it's really about the smaller towns that these schools are in and sort of tradition and bringing people together. And I think it's more about community than anything. I think autumn is the best time to visit southern Utah. I think that is when it's at its peak perfection. The weather's comfortable, everything's still open, the hikes are more pleasant because you're not just dying of the heat. So that would be
less crowded.
It's less crowded. So that would be my preferred time to visit those national parks in southern Utah.
There is fall foliage in southern Utah as well.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
All right, next up, winter Now, at first glance, you might think winter is a terrible time for RV travel. Au contraire. In fact, there are many of you out there who call yourselves snowbirds,
Yes.
who maybe exclusively travel during wintertime.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, if you go to Arizona, for example, Quartzsite, you will find an entire town that emerges during wintertime of
Yeah.
RV travelers.
Yeah, and it's a really pleasant time of year to be there. I mean, I think the Southwest really shines in wintertime because they do have more pleasant climate. That's why the snowbirds go there. They're smart. They find the best weather and go there. So I definitely think the Southwest and the Southeast in winter is pretty nice. You know, the further south you get, Florida in winter is pretty perfect. That's why it's a state full of snowbirds as well. The Keys that's their peak season. So if you try to go in winter, their prices will be at peak price because that's when everybody wants to be there because it's perfect weather.
You know, when we first got into the RV lifestyle, I remember we were at home and I was looking at the weather forecast and I saw that freezing temperatures were coming to our town. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to take our travel trailer out to the state park and just experience winter camping? And so we did, and we learned some important lessons.
Yes.
First of all, our water hose and some of the plumbing froze.
Yes,
On the very first
externally.
night. Externally.
Yes.
Yeah, no damage inside the trailer, thankfully.
Our water filter busted and
When you're camping in freezing temperatures, it can be a lot of fun because it's sort of that feeling of man against the elements. Like when you go into your cozy, warm RV and outside, you know, it's freezing cold or even snow. But there are challenges with that. And there's some RVs out there that are sort of set up for winter camping. I'm thinking of the Arctic Fox line of travel trailers, for example.
for sure.
So if you're going to camp during, you know, winter in freezing temperatures, you need to make sure that your RV is prepared for that.
Yeah, and ours is because Airstreams have a belly pan that basically protects all the pipes and everything from the elements. And when you turn on your furnace, there is a vent that vents down into that belly pan to sort of keep your pipes from freezing. Now, that's not to say that if you were in 0-degree temperature that your pipes might still freeze. We've never been that cold. I think 7 degrees is the coldest we've ever been in, and we were okay. We were fine. I wouldn't want to do that cold again, mind you, but we did it.
It's one reason it was very important we had our heat furnace
Yes.
repaired last year.
Yes.
Shout out to Vinny's North Bay Airstream Repair
Yes.
for doing such a great job replacing our heat furnace.
Yeah, especially because our furnace was so old, you couldn't get the same furnace again. So they had to put a different one in and sort of cut the opening to make it fit. So they had a little bit of a bear with it, but they did a good job.
So during wintertime, obviously, cold temperatures can be challenging, and there will be many campgrounds that will be just closed down for the season. So you have fewer options.
Yeah.
But those of you who want to become snowbirds and fly south could have some great opportunities.
Yeah. I think winter in Florida is pretty nice. So
Yeah, me too.
So what is you said your favorite is autumn?
My favorite season to camp would be autumn because autumn is just my favorite season, period. I think having grown up in the deep South, I loved the break in weather at autumn. I love just the slightly cooler temperatures, the lower humidity, fewer insects. Okay.
Yes.
And of course, I love college football and all the pageantry associated with that. And it just is always kind of a fun, happy time of year to me.
Yes.
I love that transition from summer to the comfort of autumn. I would rather be in weather where I need a light jacket, personally.
I would like to just be somewhere where I could wear a long sleeve t-shirt and shorts and be comfortable, which I think in a lot of places is autumn. And then at night you need, to put on some jeans and a lightweight jacket. So I would say autumn is probably my overall preferred time of year to RV travel.
So that's it, guys. A look at the 4 seasons and a discussion of which season is best. What do you think?
Yeah,
Which
let
season
us
is
know.
best?
What do you prefer? Where do you go each season? Do you have a specific destination that you choose each season? Or do you just travel in one season? Let us know, and maybe you'll inspire us to go somewhere different at a different time of year than we normally would.
Yeah, I know that many of you out there in our audience winterize your RVs out of necessity because you have such harsh winters. We typically do not, because we kind of want to always have the opportunity to hop in and just go somewhere during wintertime. So please chime in, post a comment, share your thoughts with our community. This has been yet another episode of Long Long Honeymoon, the longest running RV show in the interwebs, or so we claim.
If you haven't yet, please click that subscribe button down below. That helps us more than you know. Also, leave a comment. Doesn't matter what it is. It helps us when you leave a comment. So, well, I say doesn't matter what it is. Don't be incredibly mean and rude. Nobody needs that.
You asked for it.
But give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Give us a thumbs down if you didn't enjoy it. We want to know either way. And then if you haven't, share this with your friends and family.
And post some ideas for future discussion topics in the comments below. Ask some questions. We will answer your questions in future videos.
Yes, absolutely. Until next time, what do we say?
Low, guys. That's ice. It is essential, if you're going to enjoy RV travel, that you have an adventurous spirit. That's more important than anything else you could bring with you on the road. A sense of humor is also very helpful. This is what cranks my proverbial tractor. I love being out here kind of on the edge in places where you're questioning, you're wondering if this is a good idea or not. For some reason, that's exciting to me. This is what life's all about. It's getting out there, exploring the world, putting yourself in unusual situations, and making the best of it.